October 12th, 2024. Well, the election is going into kind of the finale right now. A little over 3 weeks to the final election day, and of course, many people will be voting a lot sooner than that. Some of them really already are. Uh, as we look at the situation right now, I think the momentum has moved in the direction of Trump finally, and that probably for the last week or so. Probably the basic factor is that the more you know Harris, the less you kind of think she should be president. Um, Early on, I think her initial uh, rise was largely due to the fact that she was just something new, not Trump, not Biden, and so there was a kind of okay, that's great. It was well rolled out and promoted very heavily by the media, but now that she's actually out and done a bunch of interviews, we're beginning to realize that she really doesn't have the presidential caliber that you'd be looking for. And while Trump maybe is a little eccentric from the point of view of presidential figures, um, to use his own terminology, sometimes used for potential appointments, not exactly out of central casting for the role. Nonetheless, having been president for 4 years and saw how he handled things with respect to the economy and foreign policy and immigration, I think he looks a lot more attractive to many people. So, at any rate, so that's the way it looks at the moment. The evidence for it, the Real Clear Politics average, which I tend to follow with polls, the Harris lead is shrunk to 1.8% from over 2% not too long ago, and in the battleground states, the Trump has actually gone to a lead of 0.4% and is actually ahead of six of the 7 states by a margin at least. So it's looking, I say, more attractive for a Trump win here electorally. And as I pointed out and many times before, maybe more than people want to hear, uh, the Democrats tend to outperform in the states they win, particularly your California and your New York and so forth, by about 4.5% of the national popular vote. So that if it were to turn out that Harris would only win the popular vote by 1.8%, one would expect that in the swing states, Trump would probably win. And I think that maybe there's a certain amount of 2 or 3% of undecideds that will finally shift at the end. So anyway, but still, because it could theoretically shift anyway based on some final October surprise, we shouldn't be overly confident. I think it's a winnable race, but it's probably also theoretically losable too at this point. So it's important to get out and vote. And as Dan Bongino says, try to bring people. He talks about 10 people, but if you could bring even one other person that otherwise wasn't going to vote for Trump out to vote for Trump, it would be a major success. So anyway, if you like these videos, please give me a like. It helps with the algorithm to get this out to other people. You can, of course, subscribe, and if you're a subscriber, you can click the bell for notifications. If you're on Rumble instead, you can follow me there. And by the way, you can forward links to this to other people that might be interested to get more people following this. So that's kind of the way I see the presidential race for the moment. I'm somewhat encouraged. Let's put it this way. The other aspect, of course, is the congressional races. On the Senate side, it's looking fairly good for the Republicans to get control of the Senate, given that we'll pick up West Virginia for sure, I think, and we're still leading in Montana. There was a debate up there. I'm not sure how that turned out. There was something about steak or something. I don't know much, but hopefully Tim Sheehy will still be able to pull it out. We definitely want to retire Tester. Tester is the biggest phony out there, being a person that claims to be a moderate, but actually is a full-scale liberal. I don't know how he's fooled the people in Montana this long, but hopefully not this year. Otherwise, the races have had some discussion where, there might be a problem. I don't know. It looks like the Scott race is okay in Florida, and probably, I don't know, with everything going on now with the hurricane, of course, it looks. I saw 2 recent polls. One that were contradictory. One has Scott ahead by 2, another has him ahead by 8, which would be an average of 5. So that should be a solid win. I would think he'd do at least that good. And of course, with the increased Republican registration there, one would hope. The Nebraska was a little shaky for a while. This independent was fooling a few people, but it looks like maybe it's stabilized in favor of the incumbent Republican. That's when we got to make sure everybody gets out to vote for the Republican. We don't. This Democrat, independent, whatever you want to call it, was obviously a phony that will caucus with the Democrats, or at least he'll mess things up. We don't need that. And I know the Cruz race in Texas seems to be interesting. Of course, they have kind of been before. Uh, the, the, um, the Democrats apparently are throwing a lot of out-of-state money into this race, and so that one, although the latest polls I've seen still have Trump up, I'm assuming has Cruz up before to maybe 5%. Remember, he only won by about 2.5 in the 18 election against Beto O'Rourke. But so that's one that everybody needs to continue to contribute to and support also. And otherwise, just support the National Republican Senate Committee or the candidate in your state. Some of them, there's a couple of others that are interesting. Pennsylvania and Wisconsin look like they could be closing up a bit. Usually the incumbent usually squeaks it out, but hopefully maybe we could win one of those or two of them. That would be good too, to give us a little extra majority and marginalize a couple of moderate people I can think of that will still be in the Senate that might not vote the way we want on some key votes. So that would be good. The House races to me looks about 50-50 right now on who's going to win the Senate House. Excuse me. The issue there is well, you've got like the majority that we got in the last race in 2022 was largely because of Kevin McCarthy's good fundraising and recruiting of candidates, and I think you had a situation where we had a excuse me in the New York race, we pulled in some seats we otherwise might have got because of a very strong performance of the Republican governor candidate, even though he lost. It helped out. And there's some tight races also in California to think about. Otherwise, there were a lot of toss-up races in the last election, which we lost probably because of bad candidate choices and the abortion issue that was utilized. I'm hoping that may be receding in effectiveness simply because, okay, it's been over 2 years since the end of Roe v. Wade, and nothing has really changed against in most of these places that are toss-ups, at any rate, that we're talking about on the issue in terms of what, in fact, in some places, referendums have made abortion more available. It's a sad thing, in my opinion. I'm not for abortion, but if people are going to vote Democrat because of it, but vote against their interests on the economy and immigration and national security issues, then I think you'd have to consider that it may be at least that, that maybe that won't motivate that quite as much. In the deep red states where really tight abortion laws have been passed, I don't know what's going to happen there on that one. I know that in some areas the Democrats are still making a major push out. I know that Kamala Harris is. Anyway, I think that we have a fairly good chance then maybe to keep the House as well, particularly the stronger Trump performs in the popular vote, I think, in certain areas, the chance he'll sweep in a few more people. Because obviously having the Democrats taking the House would be very bad for a number of reasons, including, of course, having the Speaker of the House is very good backup to your top two people, the president and vice president. And remember, I don't rule out the idea that the Democrats will try some kind of election challenge plan similar to the thing that Trump is notorious for in the last 2020 election. I remember Kamala Harris will be in the position that Pence was in, and she may not be as strictly following the Constitution as Pence did. So we'll see how that all plays out. But I mean, if you had the Speaker of the House, the thing became a true impasse, well, then you still have a Republican president. Because remember, if they can't solve it by noon on the 20th of January, the Speaker of the House becomes president. So, anyway, that's something to think about. And So that's kind of the layout of the campaign as I see it right now. We and of course, so I'll try to keep everybody informed as time goes forward. I might make a few comments here. I know we're still awaiting any in the Middle East, any attack from Israel to Iran. As of this recording, of course, things could be developing. I personally think it would be smart for them not to do it because I don't think they can do enough of damage to Iran in a way that would be acceptable to the world community that would really be worth doing. I mean, the one thing they could do would be attack the oil facilities. I think particularly the oil ports and the shipment aspects and storage and that sort of thing. And that would basically increase the price of oil on the world market, really angering the Chinese who use that oil. And of course, probably helping the Russians out, who now can probably wrangle a little bit more than whatever the world economic communities want them to be able to sell it for. So, but anyhow, we'll see how that plays out. There, ongoing moves against Hezbollah are ongoing, and to me, that's the direction that would make more sense for them to focus on knocking out Hezbollah as a way to punish Iran, not directly throwing missiles at each other and bombs at each other. But we'll see how that plays out. So I'll wrap this up for now. It's all for this time. I'll be posting this on YouTube and Rumble. And of course, the address of my social media accounts are in the description below. So all for now.